Hello ladies, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to Homemakers Radio. I hope you get a few things done, maybe some tedious things, maybe some repetitive things. If you need a little company, there's nothing here to watch, but maybe you could just carry it around and listen as you go. And I have a post where I am embedding this video, so if you'd like to click the link that I provide in the description box below on the channel here, you may go over there and see the other things that go with the video and leave a comment if you like. If you're not comfortable with that, you can find my email on the left and just email me your comment and indicate you'd like to have it printed, and I will do that. And I do appreciate your comments. They're what keeps me going, and if you weren't here, I probably wouldn't have the motivation to come. And but I must confess that I don't listen to them afterwards, and I don't work by them because I would hear all the mistakes I made and I would just remove them all. Before you get to work today, I would like to share my teacup with you. It's from the Empress Hotel. I got it at a local antique store before captivity, and it was $8, I think, but I've understood that since then these have gone up quite a bit. It's just a stoneware cup. The men enjoy drinking out of this. It has a crown on it. And so you may go and do what you need to do to get your day started. If you are not ready yet, you all know, those of you who have been here before, that I emphasize appearance before anything. Now, of course, I don't always do that. Sometimes I've got to have my wee spot of tea, and I have got to make my list. So I'll sit there in my bed and make my list and think about what the day is going to bring to me, what I'm going to have to do and what I would like to do. Those two things are really important on my list, what I'd like to do and what I'd have to do. One of the things I consider you have to do is to take care of your appearance. Do you need to wash your hair? Do you need to take care of your clothing? Do you need to have a fresh, vital appearance? An appearance of vitality and youth, no matter how old you are. You can even be elderly like I am and still portray an exuberance for life, and a lot of it could be your very appearance. And if you lack incentive and you're feeling a little eerie, a little odd, a little off, and you can't seem to get started and you don't have any motivation, then I would suggest you put a little extra time and extra effort into your appearance. Now, as you can see, I'm sitting here with a mess in my background just to show you my house is not perfect and it always needs work. And but the light is coming in on this side, and I don't have lights or cameras or anything like that, so I just have to sit in front of the window where the light is coming in, and that's where it was this morning. And I have a few minutes to talk to you before I go to meeting, before I go to church. And I've already been over there. I had to get up early and go over there. I have to turn the lights on and turn the heat on, set out the communion, make sure all the Bibles and songbooks are on the tables where people can use them. And we meet in a fellowship room over there because it's easier to heat, and also we like being in a room that has better acoustics too. So I've already been over there, and then I came home and got dressed and got ready to go back. And so the challenge of incentive, if you're feeling like you just don't have the incentive to do anything today or tomorrow, whenever you listen to this, put extra effort into your appearance, because that's mood lifting. Go an extra mile in it, because if you know how to fix hair, or you're learning how to fix hair, or you're learning how to dress, go do it. Do the extra. You don't have to look absolutely like you're getting by with just what you have to. Just go the extra mile. You can dress up like this too. I'm wearing a dress and a little scarf from the 1980s, from back in the olden days. But I understand that some of these styles are coming back. I actually sewed this from Hobby Lobby fabric earlier this year. And so it's not like I'm wearing something from the 1980s, but I used a pattern that was one that I was familiar with, and it was from the 1980s. Now, one of the things that you can do is when you're in the bathroom and you're fixing yourself up, particularly your face, is you can look at yourself and think, am I optimistic? Or am I hardened and bitter? And these things are so important for you to spend some time on your appearance, because you get to look at what kind of attitude you have. And they say that the eyes are the window of the soul, and to a certain extent I think that's true. And when you look at someone's eyes, sometimes they'll be someone who's very opinionated and hardened will narrow their eyebrows, and they will give you the squinty eye, as we used to call it, critical people. And so if you want to put yourself on a course of self-improvement, I think it's really important in these times. Now, every one of us was made for the time that we are in. How are you going to allow God to use you? Why don't you get yourself in a position in self-improvement for God to use you for some purpose? And I believe the home is a great purpose, and that we don't even tap into what we're capable of at home, or what the house and home is capable of as far as service to our families and to ourselves and others and to God. So what are you going to say? And I've had a challenge going on for several months, and that is, let's challenge ourselves to come out of the other side of this captivity in greater physical shape. I've mentioned you can take a 5-minute chair exercise. It's a stretch exercise. I call it a mood lifting exercise, and it loosens up all the muscles that might be causing you to have restricted thinking and being in a bad mood. I used to think that had nothing to do with, I thought it was all emotional, all psychological, if you were depressed or if you just weren't motivated, but some of it might be muscular. And the Proverbs 31 stretched out. She worked out a little bit before she started the spinning wheel. And so before you start work at home, I think it's a good idea to go into your little exercise room, get on your exercise clothes, do 5 minutes of the chair exercises, because it will move the muscles that might be restricting you and making you feel a little sad. And you might want to test this out, but I have found this to be true. Maybe it's not for you. By the way, everything I say here is only my opinion. Don't base your life on it, and don't follow my example. Just make sure you follow the Lord. And these are just things to give you a little bit of encouragement and fellowship, and just being somewhat able to tell you some of my experiences. Doesn't mean that it's just the end all. So you just choose, you make your own choices, and everybody is no one is the same. So the challenge of self-improvement. Let's come out of the other side of this more physically fit, more spiritually aware and fit, and more emotionally steady. Let's come out of this with everything more organized, in the house in better shape. You could paint the house from one end to the other in all this time. And some people are going to wish that we could have had this time over again. There are more women at home now. The state always pushed women out of the home, and all of the propaganda in the magazines and the newspapers was all about how you couldn't be worthwhile unless you had a career and you worked outside the home. If you worked in the home and you were a homemaker, that you really didn't have a profitable life. And that was all just drummed into us from the time we were very young. But now even they are home. And so now it's up to us to lead the example, those of us who are used to being at home, to lead the example of how we're going to conduct ourselves and come out of this whole thing smarter, more talented, more creative, stronger physically, mentally, emotionally. And so one day someone's going to ask you, what was life like for you during captivity? And so you're creating a history for yourself by what you do. So at least, if you don't have any other idea of what to do, at least, ladies, get dressed and get ready and get your appearance ready. Don't just get dressed, but make yourself presentable as though someone were coming, someone important were coming. And your family is the most important. And that's what we should focus on. And this time makes me think particularly how much dependence I had on the commercial world, because whatever the season was, I'd go and maybe be uplifted by the colors and the lights and just the new season, whether it was fall or spring, and get ideas and get kind of energized about what I could do in my home. But now that everything is coming from the home, now we have to think for ourselves, and we have to be self-employed and self-motivated. I believe the Bible teaches that, and you can find it in many respects where the Bible talks about how we need to have self-control and know how to be noble and how to be kind and how to think on things that are good, and to stretch ourselves and learn that this is like a race. And when you're running a race, you're running the race of life, and you need to be fit for it. So you need to learn the scriptures, and you need to learn other things. You maybe study a little bit about homemaking and home interiors and things like that. So there's a challenge of self-improvement, so that when someone asks you, what was life like back in the 2020s when you were in captivity, and then you will have a story to tell of what you did. I have listened to some people on YouTube in talking to each other on Zoom and being interviewed and being asked by people in other countries, what's life for you like? And they will say things like, well, we're homebodies anyway, so there's not much of a change for us. We do a little more ordering, we don't go out so much, but we're all, in general, used to this, used to being at home. And that's where you have an advantage if you're a full-time homemaker. You're used to it, and you can be a great encouragement to people who are sinking in despair by showing them how you live. Now, I wouldn't suggest that you go and do housework for somebody else. You need to just let them see what you do, because you need to make them self-employed too. So your mood lifter today, two things I think you should also include in your beauty routine should be your 5-minute exercise. Just your 5-minute stretching exercise that you can find. Now, you know the ones that I like. I've mentioned them before, but of course you're going to go down her playlist and see some things that aren't right and not good. But I couldn't find any other exercise person who had my complete Christian view. So this is what I'm doing for now. And one thing that has helped me is that I have now repeated her exercise so much that I can do them without watching them. What if the internet was taken from us? What would you know? So you might want to print off some things, keep a notebook of things that are important to you in case this information is removed. So one thing I want to go on to next is, we've done the appearance, and I'd like you to go to the homemaking. And one thing that has really been disturbing over the years is that the ladies who are members of the Lord's Church have not shown any serious application or interest in the Titus 2 model, which is to guide and guard the home. In 1 Timothy 5:14, to guide and guard the home, and to be keepers at home, and to keep the house. Because the world and feminists have told us that sounds restrictive, but really it's more restrictive to be bossed by somebody else as to what time you're going to get up and what time you have to be at work, and what all you're going to do, and you're working to benefit something else, some other entity, somebody else. But at home, you're working to benefit your own people, your own self. Do you remember when you got married and you brought home all those wonderful wedding gifts, and for the first time in your life, it was all yours. The household products were yours. They belonged to you. I can still remember washing the dishes for the first time, thinking, these are ours. These are mine. Well, it's the same with the difference between going to work for someone else and using their desk and their whatever it is, their uniform and their dictates as to when you will stop for lunch and when you will quit. Whereas at home, it's for you, it's for your family. I know it's going to be hard for you to understand that if you're not used to it. And those of you who are not used to it are going to find that there's plenty to do. If you are used to being regulated by somebody else and you just can't seem to be self-motivated, go over to flylady.com and get her schedule, and where she will tell you every day what to work. You can also pay something. I think it's about $4.50 a month, and you can also pay something and get someone to coach you in your homemaking. I one day would like to take a course like that, but right now I'm not in a position to do that. I've got too much to declutter here first. So this is so important that the homemaking become a priority. And I have mentioned 3 areas that I think are the have to do, and it's because of the sanitation, and it's because of health. And that is your kitchen. Make sure that that is cleaned, and that especially anything soiled is watched. Dishes have to be cleaned. Dishes have to be watched. If you don't have a dishwasher, find a way to get one. In the meantime, learn how to wash dishes by hand so it's all sanitized. You rinse them after you've washed them in soapy water. You rinse them in hot, clear water. Now, if you think that's a waste, you could also use that hot rinse water for wash water for a second batch, and then make a new batch of fresh rinse water. But always rinse your dishes, because it keeps the bacteria and soap off that can be very bad for your stomach. I know people think nothing of it, but and then do plan on getting a dishwasher, because it's great at sanitizing. And I know there are people that object to it, and they will say, well, if you have to rinse them all first, what's the point? The point is that it gives a good sanitizing wash. You know, all that cutlery, the forks, knives, and spoons, those have been in people's mouths, and the little tines on the forks. You can't really get in those and really clean them as well as a dishwasher will. The glassware, those have been on people's mouths. You need to have that great sanitizing. Another thing we used to do in the olden days on the homesteads, my mother would boil the rinse water and pour it over the dishes in another container, just so they would be very well sanitized. Now, so I do recommend a dishwasher. Get a good one. Now, if you have a problem feeling brightness and eagerness for life at home, and any kind of motivation for your home, then there are several things you can try. You can redecorate, you can rearrange, and you can repaint, and you can also rearrange your schedule so that you have certain things that you do at certain times of day. Don't you remember times when people actually deliberately stopped for tea? It was just like a religion. They stopped for a cup of tea and some bread and jam. And what happened to that? Well, it was replaced by your 10-minute break at work, or the school schedule. And we need, since we're at home now, we're liberated, and we can do what we want, and so we can have that time. And so stop and deliberately have tea at certain times, and make yourself a little kind of a loose schedule that you can follow, and indicate that in the afternoon or the morning or the evening you're going to stop and do that, and include that in your list, because that is part of your equipment. That's part of your tools of revival. You've got to keep yourself revived. So you include that along with your kitchen, keeping your kitchen clean, your laundry room clean, and your bathrooms. These are important because this is where the water areas are that can accumulate bacteria. Keep everything in there clean. And so you go around the house every day and do that, or every other day, and depending on how many people you have around. And then have your rest time and your tea time, because you're reviving your spirit, and you light the home. Her presence lights the home. It can't do that unless you've got some of those little luxuries. And now that you're home, it's your choice, and you can do that. I don't really like this place where I'm sitting, because I'm seeing the background, and there's so many things I need to do back there, and it's so cluttered. But hopefully you're not watching this, and you're just learning as you go, and you are listening and using it as company as you go. Now, as far as cleaning house and tips and things, you can get that in various other places. I'm just encouraging you to do it. And one of the things that I have done recently is I've made a captivity tea box. And I just took an empty tea box, had the tea bags in an empty tea box, and I loaded it with some scones and some jams. I have these little tiny jars of jams you can buy, and some cheese and some other things in a bag of tea, and to give that to someone because a lot of people are reluctant, to visit you. That's something you can do. You can just deliver them a little tea box. It is really sad that some people are still so reluctant to visit, but you might be able to use that. Now, this didn't start just because of captivity. Do you know that years ago I saw this coming and felt it? It was back in the 1970s where so many women started going back to work, and they did not want to come and visit anymore. And they were exhausted, and they also didn't have the time, and they made friends at work. That was their social life now. So this has been going on for a long time where people are reluctant to come over. Thankfully, the Lord gave us this avenue to come and be able to broadcast to people, and we can share the inside of our homes and share our tea time together. I ran across somebody on YouTube a few years ago, and all she did, I don't know what happened to her, but for a while there, all she did was say, good morning or good afternoon, and she said, this is my tea time, and today I'm having this and this, and she would read a poem or something and then go. And that way you could participate. Although I think if God had wanted us to be flat, like on a flat screen or virtual, he wouldn't have made us dimensional. We're round, and other people are round, and we hug them and we shake their hands, and we get to see something more of their dimension and understand things a lot better. Like, for instance, all you see here, you cannot really feel it. You can't feel the atmosphere. You know how some people are, you'll get some company and maybe they're negative, and after they leave, the house just kind of gets on your nerves because they've left an aura. You feel like they've left an atmosphere. Well, with someone who's kind and loving and enthusiastic, you feel that atmosphere when you're around them. So it's not the same as the screen. And I always felt like God wanted us to be together in person. That's why he gave us families, which is one of our basic human rights, to have our families around us. And so any state that tries to take that away from you is against God. That's my opinion. And I also believe that it's true. Now, to get your mind on your things, on the house and getting it how you like it, Mr. S has always encouraged me, get the house the way you like it, the way that it makes you smile, where you delight in it, so that you'll be happy in it, because that's where you will be taking care of other people, and that's where you will be living. That doesn't mean I didn't go anywhere, but I have been home for 150 days or more, which is as long as Noah was in the ark, and I still don't have time to get everything done. There's still a lot of things to do. But what I really am enjoying about it is waking up in the morning and not feeling the tension start to well up in me that I'm going to have to go out and do all these errands and push a cart and get this and get that, and someone else is coming and I'm going to have to do this and this, and the stress would start first thing. Well, now I don't have to go anywhere because I order everything, and I'm enjoying it. I don't know when I will reach the breaking point. I'm sure I will announce it to you, though. So one of the things that has disappointed me is that ladies in the church, particularly ladies in the church, in the Lord's church, have not taken seriously Titus 2 and 1 Timothy 5:14. But I think it's a method of learning, because I honestly, although I believed it, and I believed that I should be home and that I was needed there, I didn't really understand it till I started to homeschool. And when you start to homeschool, you realize that you're teaching your children about life, and you're very much needed there. And to outsource that means that you would not develop yourself as much, or them, because while you're teaching your children, you're developing yourself. And that's why when I come here, I like to homeschool you, because once you've been a teacher, it's really hard not to be one. And so I'll be homeschooling you while I'm here. I don't know that I have a particular word for you today, but maybe I can find it here in my notes. One of the wonderful things about being home and your homemaking, I know you're alone, and I know that it's very isolating. It's a feeling of isolation, but it gives you time to let your thoughts settle down and devote yourself to prayer. You can pray as you go, and what a wonderful opportunity this has been for people to get close to God and to pray and to ask Him His blessings on their children and on their grandchildren, on their household. And with more running around and more other things to do, we have left that prayer part. And so this is just a great opportunity for prayer. And so I think that you can say, when people ask, where were you, or what was life like for you during captivity, you can say, I never prayed so much in my life. Now, to get your minds on the things of the home and get your mind away from dread and fear and gloom and doom, which is one of the problems that ladies have, or anybody has, is gloominess, is talking about how bad things are. That is not edifying. That's not good for you. It's not good for anyone. That's what Philippians 4:8 was all about. Think on things that are good and pure and lovely and of nobility and good report and virtuous, because God knew that whatever our thoughts were would be what would motivate us. When you walk into someone's home and it's just beautiful and she's just done a beautiful job and she serves you, remember the story of Taylor Caldwell wrote that little booklet about her Aunt Polly. I read that to you some time ago on a video. And she said when she went to see her Aunt Polly, she served her this hot British tea with scones and homemade jam. And when you are in a home where you feel this beauty and this warmth and this wonderful, uplifting loveliness, you know that woman is thinking thoughts that are good, because you can't have someone who's morose and gloomy doing such the opposite. You know, that would be someone who would be suffering from what we call cognitive dissonance, I think, where you're wrestling between two beliefs or two thoughts. But someone who has a beautiful home is thinking beautiful thoughts. How does your home reflect your thoughts? The neatness, the tidiness, the orderliness is reflecting who you are and what you're thinking. It is a reflection of what your beliefs are. And it's the same with your appearance. And that's why I emphasize that. It's a reflection of what you're going to be doing today, what you're thinking of your family, how you think of your home. And of course, I wish I had learned it a lot earlier. Somebody said they wished that I'd been here talking about this 20 years ago. I wish that somebody had been talking to me about it 20 years ago. But what I did is I started to analyze, you know, the ladies in the church were not Titus 2 women who were not, many times in the past, were not eager to teach other women about living at home and training their own children and keeping their own house. And I thought to myself, instead of being disappointed and frustrated about it, I'm going to learn to do it so that I can teach it later. And that's what you need to do. And don't worry about the fact that there are no mentors. You're going to be a mentor to your children, or if you have no children, your example is very mentoring. Now, when I talked about keeping your mind on things that are away from fearfulness and away from dread, that's really important. If you've got a habit of that, just substitute it with a prayer. Ask God to deliver you from it. And also, if you do wake up in the morning or you have a feeling of fear or dread or eeriness, now a lot of this comes just from the fact that you don't have a group of people around you, and you don't have a huge amount of fellowship. You're alone at home with your family. It can feel a little strange if you're used to socialization. We've probably been over-socialized. But the exercises, you know, I told you about the stretching and the sitting in a chair and everything, somehow releases a part of your brain and makes you think more clearly. And so that you don't have that there, but also substitute it with prayer. And I found a song. It's an invitation song called Out of My Bondage, and I wanted to read. I'm going to try to find it and embed it on the same post as this video. But it's an invitation song, and I'll just read some of the words to it. And it has special meaning because of the era that we're living in. Out of my bondage and sorrow and night, Into thy freedom is called Jesus I come. Into thy freedom, gladness, and light, Jesus, I come to thee. Out of my sickness into thy health, out of my want and into thy wealth. Now, want meaning poverty. Out of my sin and into thyself, Jesus, I come to thee. Out of my shameful failure and loss, into the glorious gain of thy cross. Out of earth's sorrows into thy balm. Out of life's storms and into thy calm. Out of distress to jubilant psalm. Jesus, I come to thee. Psalm, P-S-A-L-M. Out of unrest and arrogant pride, into thy blessed will to abide. Out of myself to dwell in thy love, out of despair into raptures above. Upward for aye on wings of a dove. Oh, isn't that a pretty poem? Upward for aye on wings of a dove. A-Y-E. Out of the fear and dread of the tomb, into the joy and light of thy home. Out of the depths of ruin untold, into the peace of thy sheltering fold, ever thy glorious face to behold. Jesus, I come to thee. I have no idea what year this was written, but what a beautiful piece of poetry that is. I'll try to have that on there so you can hear the tune, which is really nice. Now, I wanted to read a little bit. We're going to go into the people thing. Hopefully you're getting a few things cleaned out, unloaded. I have my freezer to clean out. I've got my favorite movie I'm just going to plug in and listen to. I wanted to, a lot of you are still watching or listening to the news. I would say if you are having a problem with your attitude or your gloominess or your lack of motivation, you've got dressed and that hadn't worked and your house is cleaned up and you still have an eerie feeling, to quit listening to the news and to cut off all media for a little while, because they aren't going to help you and they don't believe in Jesus Christ. And why would you let someone come into your home that's speaking the opposite of what you believe? Why would you let them just sit in your living room and another adult just sit in your living room and influence your children? And by reporting things that we are not sure that have actually happened. Now, that everybody will call me a conspiracy theorist when I say that, but I want to read something out of the Bible to you, where this is just an old trick, stirring up people to make it seem like there's something happening here and creating trouble. And I have said several times that a lot of the news reports are news that's made up by the news, created by the news, and even dramatized by the news. But this is from Acts 17, and it's about Paul and Silas in Thessalonica when a mob was stirred up. And people don't just like break into this spontaneous mob. They are educated and persuaded and told how to do it. I mean, people don't just suddenly, the 20 people don't just suddenly show up and create some kind of a disaster. They are educated to do it. They are taught to do it. They are programmed to do it. So it says here, now when they had passed through Amphipolis and Apollonia and came to Thessalonica, where there was a synagogue of the Jews, and Paul went in, and was his custom, and on 3 Sabbath days he reasoned with them from the Scriptures, explaining and proving that it was necessary for the Christ to suffer and to rise from the dead, and saying, this Jesus whom I proclaim to you, he is the Christ. And some of them were persuaded, and joined Paul and Silas, as did a great many of the devout Greeks, and not a few of the leading women. But the Jews were jealous, and taking some wicked men of the rabble, can you imagine? They labeled, this would have been censored on Twitter. Taking some wicked men of the rabble. They called people rabble. And they formed a mob. See, it was formed. They formed a mob, set the city in an uproar, and attacked the house of Jason, seeking to bring them out to the crowd. And when they could not find them, they dragged Jason and some of the brothers before the city authorities, shouting, these men who have turned the world upside down have come here also, and Jason has received them. And they are all acting against the decrees of Caesar, saying that there is another king, Jesus. And the people and the city authorities were disturbed when they heard these things. You see, it was a report. It was a report that was sent out to disturb people. You're listening to this stuff all the time when you listen to media. And even sometimes the conservative media's no better. They don't give you much hope. And when they had taken money as security from Jason and the rest, they let them go. Yeah, they had to pay a fine in order to be left alone. Well, then here's another case here. So it's similar to what's going on today with creating these this uproar all the time. And if you're listening to media every day and to see what's news, yeah, it's interesting. It pulls you along. Why don't you write your own news? Just get a piece of paper this size or a notebook, and just start writing your own news every day. And don't raise your children up thinking that that news is any kind of authority. It's always been bad, even from the days of Christ. And I could tell you the history of the news media in America, and it was always considered a yellow journalism, a rag, because they were made out of old rags. The papers were made out of old rags. And their content was similarly as dirty, and still is. So here's Paul and Silas in Berea, and here's another mob going to be formed. The brothers immediately sent Paul and Silas away by night to Berea, and when they arrived, they went into the Jewish synagogue. Now these Jews were more noble than those in Thessalonica. They received the word with all eagerness, examining the scriptures daily to see if these things were so. Many of them therefore believed, and not a few Greek women of high standing, as well as men. But when the Jews from Thessalonica heard that the word of God was proclaimed by Paul at Berea also, they came there too, agitating and stirring up the crowds. You see, all this stuff that's going on today, it's no different. They're just agitating and stirring up the crowds. Now, this money that Jason had to pay to get them to let him go was probably going towards some of these people to pay them for becoming part of the crowd and for agitating. Just like today. Then the brothers immediately sent Paul off on his way to sea. And so there, agitating, stirring up the crowds, creating a mob. They formed a mob and set the city in an uproar. Then they agitated and stirred up the crowds. So this is no different than what happened there. Those were perilous times when Christ walked the earth. There are perilous times here too, but he's given us a way out of it. And that's why I read you the poem of that song. I'll try to put that on there. You listen to that several times if I do get that, if I do find it and put it there today. So keep your mind away from the dread and the fear and the gloom. So you have to have motivation. You have to have self-motivation, and you have got to have a mind of your own and not be influenced. You see, for instance, wouldn't it be fun, wouldn't it be enjoyable to have a woman come into your home and have a class and have someone come and, encourage you? But what if you didn't? What if there were perilous times when you couldn't? You would still have to do it, and you would still have to know how to do it. And that's the best learner, is to be able to have to do something yourself. And you have to be, also if you're older, if you're getting to be an older woman, you need to show your grown children, even your grown married children, grandchildren, what it's like to be older. What are you doing? And to be a homemaker and to have a sense of settled, to feel settled and not to be agitated all the time, not to be upset all the time, not to be worried all the time, and not to put burdens on them of all your fears and worries. So we have to be stable. So let's come out of the other side of this, more stable, more courageous, happier, less fearful. This stuff that's going on in the world doesn't bother me because I went through it already when I started being a preacher's wife and homeschooling my children. The attacks were incredible. Plus, I had similar things, similar to what you would call today a gag order. Well, we don't care if you want to be a homemaker, and I don't care if you want to raise your children at home and be a homeschooler, but don't talk about it to anybody, And so we've all had that. This was before Twitter. This was going on. So this stuff doesn't bother me, and it's like it says God laughs at their folly, and just laugh at it after a while. And so if there's a reason that you can't grow and that you're suffering. Now, I don't believe in these Titus 2 people who think that women have to suffer at home. You don't have to. You can eliminate a lot of unnecessary suffering by getting yourself ready, cleaning your house, and having tea, and teaching something that's good, being creative, being hospitable. Now, as I mentioned before, some people just don't want to visit, so you can get them a little tea box ready, and either have them come and get it, or take it to them and leave it, or just some kind of hospitality, even a card, even sending a card. So you can also, if you have trouble growing spiritually, then you need to probably take out of your life some things that are getting in the way. And I believe that these broadcasts of the news of the nations is not really necessarily good for us. What's really important is what's happening in church, what's happening in your home. And the earth is the fullness, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So the earth actually was created for man. So we're allowed to go and see our beautiful world. We're allowed to go and travel and look around and see, and go down to the lakes and the rivers and the places that we like. We're not supposed to be cut off from all that stuff, because what they're trying to do is take away our humanness and our the creation of humanity and our identity away from us, and our love for our Lord. Cutting off churches and things like that. That's trying to take over. There was one time our governor said you could attend church, but you couldn't sing. Now, isn't that ridiculous? Because they don't want us praising God. They don't want us communicating to God. But they can never take away our prayer, can they? They never can. They really cannot cut. When you pray, it's kind of like there's a string, a spiritual spring, going straight up to the Lord. And do you think they're going to cut that off? And they can't do that, because we're spiritual beings, and they cannot change that. These people are so rebellious. These people that have put us in captivity are so rebellious that they don't want us to have any kind of life, and to become so depressed that we cease to exist. So devote every single concern you have from now on to prayer. There isn't anyone else that can help you, and in a way, this is good. This is actually, remember Joseph? He was sold as a slave into Egypt by his jealous brothers, and he must have been about 17 years old. Some people had calculated that, but he had known so much by the time he was 17 that he was able to use his brain to make it better, and he always remembered the Lord. And he told his brothers, when they finally came and reconciled with him, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. Okay, let's use this captivity and these restrictions as a time for good, a time to self-develop, a time to put yourself on a self-improvement course. I've been going through my books, and I found a handwriting book, and I found a beautiful homemaking book that someone had written and sent to me, and I thought, oh, I'm going to start following these things. I've got time now. I don't have to get and go get something. And so we can use this for good. What they meant for evil, God will use for good. And guess what? They have shot themselves in the foot, because now our families are becoming closer. Now our love for each other and the effort that we make is for each other, is for our families. We're getting kind of self-centered, I think, but it's good. Now we're self-improving. Our health is improving. We don't have so much stress from out there. And I'm speaking of the ones that have chosen to go out less. And I believe that we are going to be happier, not going to be kicking ourselves for so many mistakes and having, when you have too much socialization, then you have to worry about all these relationships and all the mistakes you're going to make, and then feel sorry all the time because you didn't say the right thing or you said the wrong thing. And when these are cut off from us, we're actually better off. And so now we can concentrate on the home. Now we can concentrate on the children and on the family. And one of the things that I'm doing is having my children tell me something every day on text that they have learned. Just tell me something that they find interesting that they have learned. Now, if you're still having trouble after all this talk that I have done, and you're not able to get started and not able to do anything, Make your list of what is wrong. Just go for a walk through the house. Just get up and go for a walk through the house and take a notebook with you and a pen and write down everything. Make a master list. Everything you'd like to do to every single area of the house, everything that needs to be done, and other things, social things that you need to do, like, for instance, correspondence, that's social. And maybe write a newsletter too. I call these commonplace newsletters, and ladies are doing more of them. I'm getting a few of them in the mail. They're nice. They just tell you some little thing that you're doing at home that might inspire somebody else, or that, inspires you, and maybe it will inspire someone else. But if you walk through the house and just kind of walk around and take in your environment, how would you like it to feel? I always remembered, I always liked that scene in the 1995 Pride and Prejudice, where Darcy takes a lit candle, and walks down the hall, and there's to retire that night, and there are all those paintings on the wall of all his relatives. But I just like the idea, he's ready to go to bed at night, and he's got this candle, and he's headed down there in the darkness. And I think it's really good in the evening to go through, close all the drapes, and pull the the sheets and the bedding back, and turn on the little lights in the rooms, and just do all the little things, lock the doors, and just make a little ritual of that. And the same, you have some morning rituals too, like what you do first thing in the morning. And think about what kind of life you want. Get your notebook out and ask, and write a term paper for me on what you would like your life at home to be like. What would you like to have happen in any room? What kind of traditions do you want? What kind of atmosphere and attitude and feeling do you want in your home? What do you want for your children? What kind of character qualities? I don't have a word for you, except I might want to use one like diligence. You might want to look that one up, and because I think we had that before. But what about vitality? Let's look that one up, and we can use the word vitality today. That might inspire you. That can be your study word for today. Now, when I used to give a word for my children, when I was homeschooling them in the olden days, you would take a word like vitality. Well, the first thing you'd have to learn is how to pronounce it. So you'd get various dictionaries. We had an old dictionary from 1828, and then we had a newer one, and learn the pronunciation, learn how to, those little symbols on a word that's been separated in a dictionary will give you the pronunciation. The accent goes on the first, second, or third syllables, etc. Learn to say it, and this is why you need the mother at home, because they can sure come out with some strange pronunciations if they don't know. And learn to say it, then read the definition of it, and then give an example of it in your own life. How would you show vitality? What is vitality? Now let's go back a little bit further. What examples do you see outside of you, in other people in your home, of vitality? What makes you think of vitality? What experience have you had in life with that word vitality, with the meaning of it? In history, let's go into history. Let's look at maybe some character in the Bible who had vitality. Let's look at that. Now, it's not an actual word in the Bible, but it's one that we use today in the English, and it really means lively or life. It's what the Bible says, that He has brought us into a lively hope, and it just means alive, vitality. So look up the root words of it and the meaning. Look up the Latin, look up the Greek, look up anything you can, the word vitality. So when there is no instruction and there's no one there to help you, and you have to be totally self-employed, this is so important that you have self-motivation. Also, eliminate any unnecessary suffering. Now, we do create our own suffering sometimes by having to get through a pile of stuff. We can't find clean clothes. We can't find a book. We can't because we're not very orderly. That's where you're imposing suffering on yourself. Other thing is having a gloomy attitude creates your own suffering too. People are not going to react very kindly to you, and then you'll start to think, people aren't really treating me very nice, but then your attitude might be part of the problem. And quit listening to those people who come into your home. I'm talking about the media, come into your home and sit there and depress you through the media, and don't acknowledge the power of God. Don't acknowledge that God is with us. And so why would we do that? And yet we defeat ourselves constantly by listening to it. It's very intriguing, isn't it? Sometimes, and they tend to speak in such a way as to keep your attention. If only we could do that with our own teaching of our children and our own conversation with each other and with the Bible. If only we could do that and make it so compelling that and make it overshadow the media. Now, you know, when talking about homemaking, when God created Adam, one of the first things he told him was to tend the garden. So he created a home for him, a place for him to live. Now, I have no idea what kind of shelter he had, whether, you know, the weather was so nice he didn't need a house, but it doesn't matter. He wanted him to tend the garden. He gave him a job to do. He had to name everything, and he had to tend it. Well, this is the same with our house. You know, you've just got to look at it as a creation where you have to tend. You have to tend your garden. And I remember a situation where we had moved and the house was in terrible shape that we had to go in, and I had to just mentally think back to Adam when he first started out, that he had to tend the garden and he had to name everything. I mean, it wasn't all ready for him, so I had to go through this house and just kind of think of myself as just being invented and coming into a new place and fixing it all up. And sometimes we have to just go through the house and think of it as we are tending it. We are tending the garden. You might want to also look that up. Now, if you're still having trouble with your mind after all this and you're still feeling gloomy, I don't know why these gloomy thoughts come, but I know that the stretching exercises in the chair, the 5-minute exercises, have helped me a lot. I start feeling a little bit dismantled and disgruntled and, you know, wishing things were better in my life, and I'll go and do some of those exercises, and that takes away that strain, and it takes away that crankiness. I'd really, really recommend it. So if you're not doing those 5-minute exercises, and include them in your appearance, because they will give you vitality. They will make you glow. They will make you feel youthful, and that's part of your makeup, your cosmetics, is those exercises. I really would recommend it. So if in the end, after all the effort that you have, and you're still wrestling with the enemy of life, and you're still feeling rather tense, then I would suggest you talk to God and say, Lord, I'm having trouble with my mind today. I want a sound mind. And you have said that we are to have a sound mind, and I can't, I'm having trouble with this. And then go outside and go for a walk, do some exercises, and keep praying this prayer till this mood goes away. And that may mean that you're going to be in prayer a long time, but it can't be harmful to you. It can't do you any harm at all. Now, ladies, I would like to also encourage you to be creative. And if anything, you know, I never liked board games, but a lot of people loved them. But because I was creative and I'd rather sew something and have something to see for my time, I didn't really want to spend a lot of time with playing cards or playing games. But if your children like games and you're not happy with the commercial games that you've had over the years, you don't know if see, some of the games I didn't like because it didn't produce the kind of character that I wanted in my children. But I could take a piece of paper and make my own game. I could make my own board game. I could make the pieces, and the children loved to do that. You can make up your own games. You can make a little road that goes somewhere, and you can make any kind of theme you want. And and everybody wins. And so those are just some of my little foibles. And so you do what you can, ladies. You do what you can over and above what is possible. You do what you can. And we have many ways in which we can express ourselves and develop and reach out to others too. You might not be the reaching out type of person, but you can improve your home. And here are some ways that you can reach your full potential. That might be another word, potential. You might want to look that one up too. So we have vitality and we have potential. Reach your full potential in the Lord and in your homemaking, in the job that He's given you at home, and in being a Titus 2 woman. And there are many ways that you can do this and also edify your children and others. You have, let's just see what you have. Okay, let's just put money out of the picture, because most people don't have it, in order to build a business or in order to develop any kind of influence or ministry. But you know what? You might have a pen, and you can write a letter. You can write a card, and that's a way to reach out beyond your, and to reach out and develop your full potential. The other thing is your voice. You have a voice, and you can say something, and you can tell something. If you have children or grandchildren, they love your voice, and you can tell them something good. And then you have your body. That's why I emphasize getting fit. Some of you that are elderly don't need to be sitting in a chair watching that television. You need to be using that time to move your body and to develop strength, and it's not too late. And that body can do many things in the home as homemaker, and accomplish a lot, so that you won't be a burden on others, and also so that you can serve better your home and your family. So you need to keep it fit. And then the mind, you have a mind. If you have a mind and you have a pen, they say the pen is mightier than the sword. You can do many things. And then you have your house. Most people are in some kind of a dwelling, and it can be used. It can be very useful. If anything, clean it up and get it neat and tidy, get it like you like it, and then we'll see what opportunities come. It's amazing that you get it all fixed up the way you want, and then a lot of opportunities come to you. Ladies, I hope that you have got a lot done while you have listened today, and I am on my way out of here and going to church, so I will make sure you leave a comment if you like, and if you want to listen to more, and because there wasn't enough time, this should be on continuous play, and it should be playing the previous one. I'm trying to come here more often. I have a lot of work to do at home, and I do take notes as I go, and I'm hoping to post more often, but just about the time I think I've got time for it, then there's something else that needs to be done. So ladies, I hope you have a lovely day, and I hope you get a lot done, and I hope you really concentrate on being grateful for your home and your house, even though there was a question here and I didn't get it finished, and that was, what if there are flaws in your home and aggravations at home, and how to overcome them. But I'll try to do those questions later. And so I'm really honored that you would come and listen to me. This is actually so much better than the seminars and the ladies' classes and the groups that we had to go to, because you don't have to leave your people. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to leave your work. And you can be at home and listen. So ladies, I love you, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.